Thank you so much for joining me, Rajat Mehta, and thank you so much for joining us on Brand Equity. I'm really excited to hear, about your personal journey. I believe, you're one of the first 10 employees of Yes Bank. You were recruited even before the bank was named, and I think it's interesting that you're going to be taking me through the brand journey of Yes Bank, given that it's a very young bank, and I'm sure it's gone through a lot of ups and downs. So thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Sonali, for having me.
So let me start with the fact that being one of the later entrants, and given the fact that the birth of this bank only took place in 2004, how tough has it been for the bank to establish itself as a serious banking institution with all stakeholders? And my second part B to that question would be, how difficult is it, especially because it is the the banking space where people park their money? How difficult is it to actually cut through and get customers onto your side when you're competing with banking behemoths who've been around for like several decades?
Sure. No, so Sonali, it's been a great journey personally for me and professionally, and literally having seen Yes Bank from day zero, literally, where we were setting up a bank from scratch.
Sure.
From that to day, right, to see Yes Bank as the fourth largest private sector bank is a very, very satisfying journey. I think when you look back, you literally can break this down into 2 or 3 phases.
Okay.
And literally the first phase of the bank was setting up the brand, the bank from scratch, right? Which was really where we were a small bank, till about 2010. We were also, we were focused largely as a corporate institution.
Yeah, because, I want to come to that a little later.
Right.
Your pivot from corporate banking to focus to retail. Given that you're still a relatively young bank compared to your peers, if I had to ask you to realistically peg yourself vis-a-vis the other banks in existence today, how does a customer or a potential customer, according to you, view you?
Well, so I think really we'd like to believe that we're a differentiated institution, a differentiated bank, and the differentiation, germinates right from our brand name. I think we were very brave and very futuristic when we decided to call our bank Yes Bank, and yes really means positive and affirmative intent to solve for the consumer. And cut to this, the other banks in the category are really boring acronyms or family names. I don't want to name them, but really Yes Bank is really a breath of fresh air when it comes to the brand name itself. So I would like to believe that Yes Bank is considered as a new generation, modern bank, which is really looking at solving for the consumer's problem, and collectively it embodies the spirit of India today, which is really about achieving success, achieving growth, achieving prosperity.
I know that's the script of your new campaign, and since you are the marketer, you're doing a good job. But let me stop you there. So I heard what you said. How difficult has it been for Yes Bank to establish its credentials in, in terms of customer acquisition, given that, especially with, the BFSI sector, people are a lot more cagey, people want to go with known names, and given that you were a newer name in this space, how difficult has that been, and what have you had to do to, provide assurance, provide security, and, hold their hand into, like, let's say, becoming your customer then and even now, I would say?
So it's been a huge challenge.
Sure.
To build a financial trust mark from scratch. We've had to ensure that we use relationships, we use trust, transparency, and we put all the efforts together to ensure that the bank's trust quotient is always high, right? Now, please also remember that unlike some of the other larger banks, we've never had the monies to blow on marketing, right? We've pretty much all through our journey plowed back every single earning back into the business. And it's only much later in 2012-13 where we started to spend a little bit more through some external partnerships and advertising in a big manner. So, small little initiatives that we took, I thought made a difference. The story of the Yes Bank money plant, which really we conceived in the first year of operations. Very simple marketing insight that a consumer associates a money plant with growth and prosperity and will never give it away. And if you look at the money plant, it's the money plant growing around the tick, which is part of our logo,
Sure.
which means your money is growing around Yes Bank. Now, we've given out over 1 million of these out.
What about in terms of product tweaking, right? I mean, how did you actually lure customers into, banking with you? So what were the differentiated offerings, advantages, that Yes Bank had to, let's say, tweak and position itself to get those footfalls?
We've always had to do that,
Yeah.
obviously, as a new entrant.
Sure.
On the corporate side, one of the biggest differentiators for us has been knowledge banking, and essentially meant that we had identified 12 or 13 sectors which are the growth drivers of Indian economy, and we invested in people who understood these sectors. So essentially, companies were not dealing with pure bankers who thought of only numbers, but they were also talking to people who understood the sector well.
Right.
So that was a huge differentiator. On the retail side, we use technology as a huge peg. So, the whole two-factor authentication, which has now become a norm in Indian banking.
Right.
Yes Bank was the first bank to introduce that way back in 2005-06.
Sure.
Now, of course, is the regulation. A host of such differentiation, but the big moment for us really came when savings rates got deregulated. And that's the time we took.
Which year was that?
This was 2011.
2011. Okay.
And we literally, moved that very night and we raised our rates, the first bank to do it. And we've consistently, given better returns to consumers. We were at one point at 7%, now we're at 6% for a long time. And these are really competitive rates, have really helped us in get market share. And really we believe that as a consumer, they deserve a lot more, right? So a huge amount of differentiation through the way the banking is delivered, through our branches, through our service ethos, etc. But the core product, which is our savings product, is hugely differentiated and beneficial for the consumer.
Tell me, Rajat, so if you look at your growth story, and I would like to divide it into two parts, feel free to slice it even further if you deem fit. But I mean, our first part is really 2004 until 2012, where you were starting up, really, and focused on corporate banking, not really into retail banking. Am I correct?
Well, partly, yes. I mean, we started off as a corporate bank, but retail started. We started investing in retail all along the way. But meaningfully, yes, retail kicked in after 2010.
Okay. So at that point in time, when you were focused on corporate banking, take me through that phase in terms of challenges and growth that you saw, and your big milestones in terms of market share.
Well, again, it was a very interesting phase because the bank was being created from scratch. As I said, we started off, on our institutional businesses. Of course, retail business was launched on day one as well. But, given that it's very distribution-led, we slowly and surely build our branch network. The corporate relationships were more one-to-one, with our high pedigreed human capital, and hence the larger institutional businesses built up upfront. Coupled with our knowledge banking strategy that I spoke about, which is a sectorial focus.
Sure.
It really helped us to establish a meaningful small-sized bank. And by 2010, we were a very meaningful large small bank, right? And these are definitions, well defined within banking parlance, etc. Really, from 2010 on April 2010 to March 2015 was the middle phase or the medium-sized phase of the bank, where we had started investing a lot into our retail business, into our distribution, a huge amount of marketing monies. That was the time when we signed up on IPL.
So that's when the real marketing push came.
Right. So, we felt that the brand is ready to become a household name, and our big, spend with the IPL, sign-off happened at that time. And that was also the time when a lot of our products and services were coming into being. So the retail assets book, which we launched a little later, our credit cards, which we've only launched about 2.5 years back. So now we're a full service bank.
So tell me, I'm particularly interested in your IPL investment, because it's a significant investment, right. And you went on board as the principal sponsor, right?
Right, and associate sponsor.
Yeah. So in hindsight, would you say that Yes Bank became a very well-known bank, and with retail customers because of that investment?
I think it worked well for us. When you're looking at an organization like Yes Bank, you also have to look at it from a perspective of the fact that the bank itself is growing at a very fast pace, right? And through the 5 years where we were, IPL sponsors, literally our branch network would have, gone from sub 500 or maybe even lesser than that to well over 1,000. Right, so literally the bank was doubling, you know, every few years, and yes, of course, IPL is a great property, and those 5 years helped us become a household name. But it was a brave investment. In year one, I think it was, you know, close to about 100% of our previous year's marketing budget, right?
Sure.
So it really took, it was the elephant in the room as far as marketing budgets were concerned. So literally from being a, you know, well-known name but not a household name, we literally became a household name on the back of that sponsorship, and of course a host of other business enablers.
But how about, you know, impact of that sponsorship? Do you see a lot of conversion? Do you see significant business growth?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, the bank's grown really well. I think,
no, just if I juxtapose it,
yeah, I think the retail business itself has meaningfully kicked. The challenge, I think, is that, you know, unlike other segments in banking, it's difficult to attribute a campaign or a sponsorship to direct outcomes, and that is because of the category we operate in. It's a rational purchase category. It's not an emotional purchase category.
True, yeah.
Right? So it's not that you see an ad and people open accounts. It takes time, right? But I think meaningfully, when you put everything into perspective, the fact that branches were growing, people were growing, products were growing, the fact that we became a full service bank with credit cards and retail assets, retail loans, you know, to go with all our other savings products, investment products, IPL really helped in further giving a push to our teams. And of course, conversions, you know, were impacted very meaningfully. Our number of accounts that we were targeting were growing. The segment itself was growing, right? I mean, way back in 2013, it was all about the sales efforts. By the time we ended, digital acquisitions became a huge part, right?
Sure.
And today, I'm very happy to report that 25% of all new savings account that the bank opens happens through digital, you know, channels.
Oh, really?
Through digital marketing efforts. So that is one of the highest in Indian banking, and we've been able to leverage it because we've been one of the first few movers in this space. So effectively, to use, you know, targeting, to use social channels, to use the entire digital spectrum to create enablers for, you know, for business outcomes. I think that's been the strategy.
What's your view of how banking in the future will look? Will it completely, you know, have a complete transformation, and would it even be required? Like, for instance, right now I think you stand at about 1,100 branches, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's what your annual report stated. So, if would it be required? Would you require to actually expand at the rate you've been expanding with the whole digital thrust, or is it actually not required?
Well, I think we again look at it as an opportunity, right? I think the rate of change that digital has brought about banking is phenomenal, and it just brings about so many opportunities, right? So as a marketer, I would put myself in the consumer's shoes, and the important thing as a brand for us is to see what the consumer journey is. Now today's consumer is very you know, focused, very happy using digital channels, but it is not, you know, there are different types of consumers, and I think you and I also, while, you know, will be largely digital, there are some physical interfaces that you need sometimes, right? So I don't think we are still ready for a, you know, 0 or 1. But literally, I think the way we look at it is that, you know, we need to embrace this change. We need to embrace it and ensure that we are on top of the game, we are ahead of the curve.
But if I had to ask you quickly, just for my curiosity, physical transactions versus digital transactions, what's that skew?
Well, so it's increasing all the time, right? Also, the way you define physical transactions, right? I mean, things like NEFT, RTGS, right? Those numbers are going up all the time. But our branches are hugely popular as well. I mean, the fact of the matter is that you still have a lot of current account, a lot of businesses, smaller businesses, they still have that comfort, you know, categories like senior citizens. Now, those are people who still like to come to a branch and have a passbook, you know, or have a physical statement. And I think as a bank, our, you know, ethos is about being empathetic to our consumers' needs, right? So, of course, we're seeing, you know, transformational and exponential increase in the way digital is growing, but our branches continue to be huge, you know, sort of congregation points for our consumers. But some of the numbers that we have, right? I mean, UPI transactions, for example, Yes Bank, in spite of its relatively smaller size, is one of the largest players in the UPI space. We had over 150 million transactions last year on the UPI platform. Now that is humongous given our size, but that happened because we invested in these technologies, in partnerships, on the UPI platform well ahead of some of the other banks. And I think that's what we are seeing, that for our overall market share, our market share on digital transactions, digital payments is exponentially higher, and that is because Yes Bank has been ahead of the curve on digital innovation.
In terms of customer experience, what have been the big enhancers in terms of ensuring that whether one is physically, obviously I guess the way bankers deal with their customers has changed over the years and wouldn't be as personalized as it was, let's say, earlier. But what are the few customer experience enhancers that Yes Bank has implied, whether it be virtually or it be in the physical world?
So again, I think it's important to put the user journey, the consumer journey into context,
Sure.
right? So you spoke about senior citizens. We have a program called Yes Respect, which essentially means that we have a special product for senior citizens, but we also realize they need to come into the branch to build those connects, etc. In fact, we run a much larger program called Yes Community, and it's a very interesting program from a marketing perspective. It's about over 12 years old now. Okay. And when we were setting up our branches, we said that, look, in the old days, people came to the branches, and when they saw the physical branches interacted, it built trust, right? We actually have run this program called Yes Community, where every fortnight we call in our stakeholders on socially and environmentally relevant themes. So nothing to do with banking. And you have kids, you have senior citizens, you have adults, you have everyone else from a branch serving area, and you would talk about some issue which could be either local or national, but on the environment, on nutrition, on health, on wellness, not related to banking. We're not selling any product, right? I think the important thing for Yes Bank as a brand has been, how have you built those extra enablers, to build that connect, to create those mind shares? Because we firmly believe as a brand that mind share, if you can create mind share with the consumer, that will translate into market share.
Sure.
That's the real strategy.
Rajat, if you could throw light on how bots are doing in India and how well are they working, or are we still in the test phase of actually trying to model it into being a really good interface which is seamless?
I think it's a great space. I think it's a space which is evolving. We in fact have experimented, but we have a very successful Facebook bot which essentially enables prospective customers to interact with the bank, get features of the account, and put in their lead request. Now what we are seeing is that, unlike the old pure lead form or the very static way of interacting,
sure,
the outcomes are much better, quicker reaction times, and consumers are far more educated. So when they actually log in a request, they really know what they are signing up for. So our conversion rates are better, consumers know what they are signing up for, and it's really driving efficiency for digital marketing for us. So I think all in all, there are many use cases. I think there is huge use case on investments. When you talk of, say, robo-advisory, Yes Bank has, is making great strides in that. But all across, I think whether it's marketing, whether it's product, bots are going to play an important role. I think the challenge for brands is going to be, how do you contextualize this such that consumer journeys continue to be personalized and they are, you deliver value to the consumer.
But I mean, how is that conversation? Are people satisfied, or do we have a while to go in terms of bots being deployed?
Well, I think people are largely satisfied. The good thing is that people who are engaging with bots are people who are savvy enough. And I think you have to look at it from a context of where we were to where we are now, right? So if bots are replacing age-old lead forms, right, then it's a big step forward. If bots are becoming conversational, personal assistant, banking assistants, then it's a way forward. So I think it's obviously a huge transformation. It's delivering consumer value. The challenge in some of the other sectors has been when bots are not trained, or bots are saying things when it comes to customer service, etc., where you'll end up saying something which is unparliamentary or not the right thing. So I think the key there is to learn continuously and use artificial intelligence and machine learning to ensure that the bot is more intelligent.
What are you looking at as your serious set of challenges as a marketer to do?
I think the one challenge that continues to be is to stay relevant in this fast evolving world where competition is not from banks alone, but from other categories. And really the consumer is so evolved today. Benchmarking a bank to some of the most consumer centric categories like e-commerce.
Right.
So the biggest challenge as a marketer is how do you stay contextual and relevant, and how do you be a bank of choice for the consumer? How do you continue to be in the wallet, the real estate of a card being in the wallet of the consumer? I think that is a big challenge. I think the other challenge also is that because we are a relatively younger bank, for us to become a primary banker, right? In many of our relationships, which we would have started, we may have started off as a secondary banker,
sure.
And slowly and surely, because of our services, our products, we move into the primary banker status. So I think that's the other challenge that we face as a marketer, is how do you evolve into becoming a primary banker and a banker of choice for a consumer. So I think these are a couple of broader challenges from a bank perspective. I think overall as a sector, one big sort of opportunity, literally, which could be a challenge as well, is how do you really ride on the technology horse, right? How do you ensure that the technology evolution is being tamed, and the brand can actually be ahead of the curve and try and deliver solutions which are technology enabled, yet being contextually relevant. I think that is key, for the bank.
A few years ago, when social media was just about popping up, most brands thought it was so important to breathe and live on social media. They were paying the Facebooks and Twitters of the world to have their account, put out new content, engage with their customers, potential customers.
Yeah.
I think some of that thinking has kind of changed, and there's been a re-evaluation of the role of a brand on social media.
Yeah.
Would you agree as a marketer that today it is actually not important to be engaging with customers or potential customers on social media per se, and one could even question its existence on social platforms?
I actually think it continues to be very important. I think what has changed is there was this one phase where social media was about followers and what's the kind of
likes and yeah.
I think that is evolved to engagement, but you'll have to look at social media as a part of your 360-degree marketing strategy, right? So today, if you talk about our ad campaign, right, and we launched a recent ad campaign around the savings account, etc., around the India Bole Yes theme.
Sure.
But how do you see, again, you look at the consumer journey. A consumer will see television, but will also consume, say, 30-40 minutes on Twitter and Facebook, right? Can you target the consumer and ensure that there is some amount of embodiment of the brand during that interface of the consumer? And I think when you look at social media, you have to look at it as one of the channels of marketing. It cannot be a standalone channel, but it has to be a part of the overall game. But I really think that social media is a key aspect as a marketer, because it is a key part of your and my life as a consumer.
Right, fair enough. I think that's a varied view, and I think this debate will continue. But on that note, thank you so much for your time, Rajat, and all the very best for Yes Bank's innings going forward and making that big leap forward.
Thank you so much.